In this video, I'm quickly going to review my trade in GATO, which netted me minus 0.6 R. I'm going to review this trade on 6 criteria: situational awareness, position size, stock selection, entry, stop loss, and exit. So at the time when I bought GATO, the SA was very bearish. The market has just been going sideways for months, and my portfolio does not have any traction. So I was in defense mode and I took a pilot size buy in GATO, risking only 0.12% of my total equity. Now I do journal all of my entries and exits on Twitter so I can see exactly what the chart looked like on the day that I bought it and what my reasons were to buy it. So in terms of position size, I followed my rules, played defense based on the situational awareness and my own portfolio traction. So both of these are good. Stock selection. The reason why I picked GATO was twofold, and I noted it in my entry. So the first was it was an earnings winner, and the second was that all the silver stocks were running on that day. So let me just show you what GATO did when it came out with earnings. On this day, it went up a lot on very high volume. And this was after 2 strong days. So overall, it made a 50% move in a very short period of time. Now, this was extremely bullish, and that made me add it to my list of earnings winners. But once this breakout failed and the stock came back and gave back about 22% of its gains and half the move of this flag, I did take it off my list for some time. But then as I noted, silver was really running on this day. And so I wanted to get into that sector trade or the theme trade. And I remembered that GATO was one of the silver stocks that was recently an earnings winners. So I did add that for that reason. Let me show you what the silver chart looked like on the day that I bought it. So this was the same day that I bought GATO. And you can see from this bar, it had gapped up. Silver had gapped up a lot. So 3%, which is almost a 2 ADR move for this stock. This is the ADR of the stock. And in the pre-market, it was getting a lot of volume too. So it really looked like silver was breaking out of this huge base, had made a run, had pulled back, and now was gapping up and ready to go. So I think in terms of stock selection, the selection is valid too, because ideally, and in most cases, a sector that is gapping up this strongly and just ready to go right off the bat does work. For some reason, in this case, it did not. But this is a trade that I frequently take on the go if I see certain sectors or stocks running in the pre-market. So this is also a great example of how I trade SIPs or stocks in play. The silver stocks were populating my scan on this day in the pre-market, and that is how this sector move came onto my radar. I think that is fine. This is a trade that I often take, and when it works, it does pay off in a pretty good way. The stock selection was also fine since GATO was one of the stronger silver stocks and itself was getting a lot of volume on the day that I bought it right at the open. I can show you what the 5-minute chart looks like on the day that I bought it. Here, you can look at the amazing volume that came in the first 5 minutes. And then as soon as it broke the 5-minute opening range high, I entered. So that entry too is pretty textbook, and I don't think there's any problem with it. Let me just quickly check where I put my stop loss. So I put my stop loss at the low of day, which is normally what my rules are if all the stars are aligned and the volume is in place for a stock. So there's nothing wrong with that either. In terms of exit, the way I handled this trade was within an hour, as soon as the silver stocks all started to fade, I sold half of GATO at minus half R. And I noted that there was no follow through and the entire silver group was fading. So let me show you what that looked like on the 5-minute chart. Initially, GATO did pop and make a new high. Found support on the VWAP. Everything seemed to go as per plan, but as soon as it gave up the VWAP and just kept going down and silver 2 started to fade, I reduced the position size by half, took a stop loss, and then 10 minutes later, I got all out. And I noted that I didn't want to take a full loss on this since the odds are that this is likely going to fail based on my original thesis. So my original thesis was that since silver was breaking out, I wanted to take GATO. And now with silver failing, I didn't think that GATO would have that big a chance of moving either. So that's the reason I cut it out completely at a net of minus 0.6R and did not wait for the stop loss to hit on this trade. Now, I think in retrospect, this was the best decision that I made. This is something that I've been planning to improve in my own trading for a while now. I would initially, when I started, I was not very good at cutting losses immediately. I would wait for the full stop loss to be hit, which in this case, it definitely would have hit, and to take a minus 1R loss. But I do want to give out a shout out to Matt Petralia, whose 2021 performance review that I recently watched gave me this idea where he discusses how he made 20% over the year, but his average loss in all his losing trades was somewhere around minus half R. And had it been a full 1R, he would have ended the year net down. And I ended last year net down, and my average loss was very close to minus 1R, almost minus 1R, you could say. So I always had the tendency to wait for the stop loss to hit and take the full loss on a trade. And when I went back and ran my own numbers, I realized had I also cut these losing trades halfway through, I would have ended up the year flat or positive as well. And so this is something that I'm consciously trying to work on now. And I'm very happy to see that I was able to implement it so well in this case. Clearly, since the original thesis had failed, I, rather than being wishful and hopeful and thinking, oh, it might come back, or let me just wait and see what happens, I ruthlessly cut this out, cut my losses in half, and moved on. So overall, even though this was a losing trade, I think this was extremely well executed. Every single criteria was executed as per my plan and my rules. And there's nothing that I think I could have done better in this trade. But if you guys think, if you have any suggestions for me, or if you think I'm missing something, definitely let me know in the comments. Thank you.